recording, and I will turn off the recording for the questions so that you wouldn't shy away, so that whatever you can ask, it's good. And let me begin. Thank you so much again for coming. I really appreciate it. I'm happy to see new faces, because I don't really do the introduction to Liberland that often, because usually people who already went to some of the presentations wouldn't be so amused to listen to it all over again. So I usually connect Liberland to some libertarian topics. So now on Saturday I was speaking about questioning the legitimacy of the state. I was showing the propagandistic narrative of the countries, how they are using propaganda to make us feel belonging to the country, or dependent on the country, or even like responsible for our government or other people who were born hundreds of kilometers away from us. Before I was speaking here about privacy and security of the data, and whether the government is the problem or the solution, and other such fun topics. Yeah, so this is what I do in my free time. I'm Sam, the representative of Liberland to Georgia, and today I will introduce you the concept of Liberland, how it began, how we got the idea, how we made it happen, and if we're scam or real, whatever. You can ask me questions, it's totally fine. Maybe I don't know all the answers because I'm still human, but I will have a live colleague, a live guest, my colleague Michal Ptacnik, as I already mentioned, who's the Minister of Justice to Liberland, and he's a lawyer as well. So he will be more available for other related questions. He's very strong in the area of the blockchain, of our blockchain development, and also in of course law, constitution, because he's participating on it, and you can participate as well. It's in GitHub. And also he will introduce us more about things related to the market, because this is one of the things that made me motivated to actually have this presentation today here. So thank you so much for coming. I have here the first slide, and the reasoning for it is because my first presentation here in the country was in Russian. I learned Russian myself, and so I felt a bit not so confident about it, but I was like, okay, let's try it out. And for Russian people, it was especially sensitive, the idea, so that they are being told that they're like responsible, they have to be connected to their country. And one of the idea of libertarian values in general is the optionality. It's the voluntaristic perspective, so that you can choose to opt into the country, and you can choose to opt out if the country is not meeting your values. But in the real world, it's pretty difficult, so that I cannot, for example, give up on my Czech citizenship. So this is why I wrote here that how Liberland created a country that's with people. It's being created for people to guard the major rights, and if it wouldn't, they can opt out. So foundation. The idea came from these two guys. Actually, in the past, I thought it's just this guy who's the president, Vidyavichka, but it's also this guy, co-founder, as you have in company, Jiří Krajbik. However, they're like friends. Both they are Czech-based. I'm also Czech, and Vít, he was in the politics in the Czech Republic. He had this, like fairy tale idea, this romantic belief that, all right, I will go into politics and I will make change from, the inside, whatever. I have many friends in my age who believe the same, that it will be efficient. And so he was in the politics for 10 years. He's a libertarian, like pro-freedom, pro-liberty. And he realized after 10 years, like, look, when it really comes to resolving certain issues and people having to put certain effort in for their freedom, most people want to do it. So this is like, you won't really have one libertarian country, despite, for example, I find Georgia a very much pro-liberty. That's why I'm here, that's why I love the country. Otherwise I wouldn't be here, I can be anywhere. But Vít, because he was traveling around the world, so he noticed that every country you have a certain percentage of libertarians around the world, of people who are like really pro-freedom, who live it, who believe the idea, and are not just thinkers but really even doers. And with Jiří Krajbik, they got to they got this crazy idea, so that, okay, well, like, you know, if we cannot really make a change in the country, so maybe we can create our own country that would unify all these libertarians, all these pro-liberty people around the whole world. And sounds crazy, right? But they really did it. It was on the birthday of Thomas Jefferson in 13th May 2015. We've just been celebrating 8th anniversary, so sadly I was not in the in Liberland to celebrate it, but we have like two major events in the year. One is the anniversary, second one is our Floating Man Festival that is also connected to the conference. And yeah, they had like a great party there, a cruise and stuff. But like, now you will say, okay, Sam, nice, but like these guys look like grown-ups and not like kids anymore, so can you really create your own country? And yeah, you can create your own country. You know, like, of course, like, if it would really come to like anarcho-capitalist perspective, so when I was texting now with Yuri, so he mentioned, you know, like, we were younger, we were stupid, so we decided as libertarians to create a country, which doesn't really make sense because they're anti-state and they're questioning the legitimacy of the state. But at the same time, it helped to unify people who are like-minded around the whole world. It created a huge community. To be particular, so since 2015, we have some 700,000 of registration on our website. So we have 700,000 of people in the email list, people who registered on the website. When you register, it's like it doesn't mean that you are required to do anything or whatever. But based on the registration, then you can apply for a residency card, which I hopefully took with me. And later you can also apply for a passport. This is also how I got to Liberland. So I applied myself first for the residency card. It's like, Jesus, this is a brilliant idea, right? So like, I want to support it. It costs some $100. I'll be happy to welcome you among the residents. And then I found out that they don't have any representative in the country, so I applied for being the representative here. And because of my big efforts since summer last year, so I got also my passport. Okay, you can just share it. Please don't keep it, thank you. I want it. All right, so let me get back to if we could create a country. So yeah, like you have certain international law, you have a certain, it's called Montevideo Convention from 30s last century. And according to this, to create your own country, you need a territory, you need a population. You need a territory, you need a population, you need government, and you need the ability to create diplomatic relations. So we were like, okay, is this doable? Well, certainly yes. Their lemonade here is amazing. So now I will guide you through this amazing checklist which defines a country and show you that we did it. So first we needed a territory. I think this is the biggest drag because, you know, like you can ask friends to be your government, you can ask friends to be your representatives, and you can have your dog as a permanent population, but you need territory. So, okay, so we found a territory, right? So this is Mr. President with his kid and wife, our first lady. So the guys were searching and found a no man's land between Serbia and Croatia, and they decided that it will be Liberland. It's 7 kilometers square. It's bigger than Vatican. Just to have it, it's like 7 kilometers square. So it's not so big, but it's like bigger than Vatican. But it's one of the smallest countries in Europe, we can say. And it doesn't belong to anyone. So you might hear some people who are like, oh yeah, but there are certain diplomatic issues, whatever. And certainly yes, we're like working on improving our diplomatic relations now, especially with these two countries. and it's going well. Just I don't have any certain like more details, but we're just improving it. But the thing is that when we just came to the land and said like, okay, this will be Liberland sort of. At that point, Serbia said, Croatia said, oh, this piece of thing, like, it's not ours, it's Serbian, and Serbia said, oh, it's not ours. But what is happening, and I'll show later, is that Croatian police is actually guarding our land, which is not theirs, and they are not allowing certain people to come, but there are people who came to the territory, there are people who are currently, right now, creating the settlements over there, but I'm straight, so like we don't have a full, simple access to the territory, to the physical land, because we are just having still issues with this. Despite they don't have the right to do so. So there have been certain cases when President Ilička, he tried to reach the land of Liberland, and Croatian police guys stopped him and they took him to jail, and they were like, oh, your country is only in your head, and he was like, yeah, your country is also in your head, which is like this questioning this legitimacy of the state. So like according to our sort of like philosophy, like it doesn't really make sense to, it's a created concept, it's a social construct. And but they never really won any trial because they don't have any right to guard a land that is not theirs. So we have a like full right for it. It's totally fine, and you can do it if it's a no man's land, and there are certain other no man's land around the world, but we are not much in touch with any of them to really create connections, as far as I know. Okay, so to give you an idea, it's here. There's Apatin, which is a very cute Serbian city. It's around 10,000 people population, and close to Apatin we have our diaspora village. I will show it later, where we are having, it's like our own land, where we are organizing festivals. We have and events every weekend now, and we have our cottages over there. You can just travel there and spend your weekend there. And it's here. Yeah. So we have this amazing territory where you can, as I mentioned, you can go there. We have our tourism website, which you can check, and over there you can see the whole list of services that you can use. And we have our festival, as I already mentioned. We have the conference over there. So I've been speaking there last year. About, not this one, by me. I want to show you this one. It's with Vít, so that you saw his human.
Greetings, fellow Liberlanders. You haven't been to Liberland yet? The Floating Man Festival is the best time to visit. Come and join us for a great party on the beaches of Liberland.
So we totally respect local culture and stuff. So we have there some local music groups, and it's really beautiful. Like local people, especially from Apatin, from Serbia, so they really like us. They support the idea. They're super friendly. I really recommend, if you have time. It's felt like a middle of nowhere, but it was really beautiful. I will show you how I got there this year. So maybe I could find some more. Okay, I could find some more videos, but whatever, I'll just share the story. So I traveled long. I went to Istanbul, then I went to Bosnia and Herzegovina, then I finally went to Belgrade. From there I got to Novi Sad because I wanted to check it over there, because it's one of like, it was supposed to be a digital nomad friendly place, which I don't know, there was nothing to me, but fine. Then I finally got to Apatin. And over there I stayed over there, but then I still had to take a taxi, or I shared a ride towards my friends. This is like when I was approaching Apatin, so I was like, okay, I'm getting to middle of nowhere, it will be the right direction. And I got to this art, which you already saw on the video. So this is this diaspora village where we are organizing events, the festival, and it was really beautiful because there were honestly, I don't know how many, but there were certainly like really several hundreds of people from all around the world, Americans, Europeans, people from Asia. Just wow, it was super exciting to really unify with or connect with other people who are like-minded. I met there so many interesting people from everywhere who are like doers, who just like to have fun and want to connect with other people. And then I spoke at the conference, and after me there was Drew Binsky. Maybe you know him. I'm not watching much content, but he's like a YouTuber who has over 1 million of followers on YouTube. So he attended the conference with us, and he shared he's creating content about visiting places around the world. He visited all the countries in the world, and now he's trying to visit all these, like weird other countries such as Liberland. And he was there, I think, is him. I will show it. But what happened after his speech? So people were just randomly, like libertarians and a bit of chaos. So people were like, okay, let's go to Liberland right now. And so they interrupted the conference, just middle of nowhere, in the middle, and they started gathering around the cars, and they were like, okay, we go, but no one really knew how to get there. So it was a bit fun. This photo, this is the president is calling someone, and he had a boat behind him. It was really fun. He drives really crazily. And this is me. I was sitting on the boat later and try to approach Liberland. And with me on the boat there was one guy from Hong Kong and one guy from London. It was very interesting. Yeah. So this is Drew. He has this very short video.
Around me right now, like Persian police. There's 3 boats, 2 police cars, and police walking on the beach.
Andrew also became one of our citizens, so we're happy to have him. This is when he was visiting Prague. So he was at we have like main office over there.
Passport, Liberland.
He's an American, so.
This is so cool. I always wanted a passport, and it's crazy to be holding one in my hand. This is my passport. You can use it to enter UN countries such as Haiti. Oh my god, I can't wait.
Like, I don't want this to look like, okay, some guys are trying to make a lot of show, but if you will want to go to Liberland outside of the festival, so you won't really have problems. We have someone who is over there, who is on the territory, who is in ARC, and we don't really have such shows outside of this festival, because during the festival, so the Croatian police just knows that there will be someone who will say, okay, now let's go to Liberland, and there will be like 50 people trying to get it. It was fun, like we were like wasting their time, but it was interesting. Yeah. Okay, so we have a territory. Okay, we have it. It's like it doesn't belong to anyone else, and we can claim it. And we need a government, but we're libertarian, so we're like, okay, we want really like flat government, just the most necessary people and just for the most necessary stuff. So we have only 4 ministers for justice, finance, interior, foreign affairs, and we just our constitution is really just focusing on securing the most needed, like religious rights, the security, and justice and diplomacy. But even like you have certain nuances, for example, when it comes to sort of like surveillance or investigation, for example. So you can check our constitution on GitHub. Despite we tried to really make it just to really secure the most basic and the most needed like securities to feel, like so that in the morning when you wake up you don't have to think whether someone wants whatever kill you. So still like there's an interesting discussion on GitHub in relation to certain points in the constitution, so that the government couldn't misuse a certain right, for example, to investigate someone or to find some data on him and so on. So it's really interesting. Direct democracy, you would have I just got yesterday at the night an email so that we just launched the blockchain because it is connected to our elections. So the voting system is direct, like a referendum. You have some merits which you get for either paying taxes, because taxes are voluntary. So if you don't want to anyhow participate in the country, okay, you don't need to pay the taxes. But if you want to participate in the country, you want to secure certain things, you want to vote or whatever, so either you can pay taxes or you can donate or whatever else, and then you can vote on things that are interesting to you, that might actually be connected to. Or if you do not, for example, if I wouldn't understand some train system, just as an example, so I can give my vote to some particular person who would be like whom I would vote for 3 months, and he will be deciding certain particular questions on my behalf. So it's like very direct and you are aware, because the current election system is like for 4 years, which is like too long, and of course like people do not really have skin in the game and they're deciding everything on your behalf, and yeah, you're not really participating at all. You just give, vote once 4 years and you feel like, yeah, it's good, like I did my step, but it's not really meeting your requirements. It's oftentimes like people just change very quickly, and their promises are not really fulfilled. So it's an interesting thing to think about how and if things could be done differently. As we are based on like freedom, so as I mentioned, the taxes are voluntary. We have minimum of regulations, just really the basic ones. However, what is also interesting, and Michal was sharing with me, the guy with whom we will be calling, is that still, if you want to really create a country within the current system, you have to meet certain like international conventions and international standards. For example, we were discussing minarchy at one of our citizenship calls. We are having like a bi-weekly call with our citizens. So over there, we found out that, for example, you cannot say that child labor is fine, because according to the international human rights, if you want to be, correct for other countries, so that they would be willing to enter diplomatic relations with you and so on, so you are more likely to adapt these laws as well, which is actually pretty interesting. Like how even if you want to really create your own countries, but if you want to be recognized by other countries, so how much you are influenced still by the current system, like so that how much freedom you really have to create your own setup, like if you want to play their game, I would call it like that, not like parallel society. We have Liberland merits, and then we needed permanent population. So as you already saw, I'm one of the citizens. We have around 700 or 800 citizens currently worldwide. And what I was very surprised by, I think right now in the country we have some 5 citizens just in Georgia. So it's pretty, like, considering what a little country it is. And there was no representative in the past, or like there was one person but for a short time, and then he left. We have like citizens here. I think there's no Georgian who would be a citizen, but hi! Thank you. I'm good. All is good. Thank you so much. But we have foreigners who are residing here, and one of people who lives here. So he used Liberland passport also to actually get his Mexican passport because he was stateless. But it's a complicated story and he doesn't want to talk about it, but it was used to show his, to legitimate himself. And also we have residencies, we have more we have some 7,000, maybe 8,000 currently residents around the world, and we have many residents here. I was surprised. I was just contacted by one new resident who's a foreigner but who lives here. He's now in Thailand. We connected on LinkedIn. Also, there's Alex. I don't remember last name, but there's one guy who's like more in cryptocurrency world, and he's Georgian, and he already had a residency card. It was like wow. So yeah, like we have more residents. Also, another resident of ours is Rezi from Franklin Club, one of the co-founders of Franklin Club. It's a liberal think tank that resides at University of Georgia. Maybe you've heard of them recently because of the governmental propaganda. Yeah, you can use Liberland passport in Colombia. So Amalia and Drubinski also mentioned Haiti, but I'm not sure how this is connected. We also have other relations, which is called a memorandum of understanding. So this is often like a partial recognition. This can be done with certain business entity or just some like on the regional basis. So I know that we had some such like memorandum of understanding on some very good connections with some Mexican region and so on. We are also working on diplomatic relations elsewhere. We have around 70 representatives around the whole world. So we are represented in many places, and we have very good connections with Dominican Republic, El Salvador. Well, I think like this is like those that are most frequent recently, and our guys, our friends in the US are doing actually a pretty good job too. They were just requesting a recognition of one of the states, so we take it seriously, you know. Usage of the documents is actually pretty fun, because the lovely thing is that people just try it, you know. And sometimes we are like working on the recognition as well, but the fun thing is that the community is actually pretty big. So someone takes a residency card and tries it as a KYC document, for example, at some crypto exchange, which actually is pretty sufficient, which is actually pretty successful. I think that someone was opening their Kraken account on it, which is like a pretty good crypto exchange. You can, because you can incorporate the company here in Liberland, so you can open the Bitwage corporate account, and then I know that there was something also related to Costa Rica, but I don't have much detail. So like for really much more in-depth things in relation to the business in Georgia, in Liberland, it would be better. I will give you one more contact for, like my colleague will address this, but I will give you some other contact for someone who's like specializing on this. And yeah, like people are using it usually for crypto exchanges, or when you do not want to disclose your passport number or so on, you don't want this to be connected to yourself, so you can use just you don't really need to use your data every time when you have to show some document. Of course, like for example, when you meet police or so, please use your document. Oh, and okay. Okay, and last one is the capacity to enter diplomatic relations with other countries. So this is why I'm here. And so what I do, I became the representative to the country in last summer. And I organize, now it's more like monthly meetups. I travel around half of the year away from Georgia because I like traveling. But when I'm here, so I organize meetups, I speak about, as I already mentioned, either like just real Liberland or other topics that are related to the individual freedom or just libertarian philosophy. And I also do some personal meetings, usually now on the business scene, because we're also the first country in the metaverse, so we are more connected to some decentralized projects, blockchain projects, and so on. So I keep sharing sort of like my connections currently among this industry, and I'm going to conferences, network, and so on, and it's beautiful. As I mentioned, so I was glad really to be speaking at the Ayn Rand Center, because there are not that many Ayn Rand centers around the world, so I was their special guest now. Yeah, I have pretty good. I have pretty good relations with other libertarian communities here. There are actually a lot, considering that the country is pretty small. So now I'll be speaking on Wednesday at the New Economic School as well. Yeah, and also I run this podcast that I mentioned. This is me. First it started pretty randomly because my friends who are like libertarians, so they were visiting Georgia. They loved the country. They were here several times, and they're Slovak. And back then I had a discussion with one of the owners of Franklin Club, and they offered us that if we want to, we can use their facilities for the podcast. It was like, okay, can we shoot tomorrow? And he was like, yeah, okay. So we did 2 interviews. One was on the Parallel Society, and second one was with Mariana Sadecka, and second one was with Pavel Luptak, and we discussed with him like Georgia on the international level, because he's a guy who traveled more than 100 countries, and so it was an interesting, insightful interview. I highly recommend it. And then I was like, okay, I want to continue with the podcast, but what's next? So I decided that we will start a second season, and I dedicated this second season to the business perspective of Georgia, because I attended many networking events where I understood that Georgia is really rising, and I'm really happy to see it, but I would love to show it to the world. So I did several interviews. Yesterday it was out my interview in relation to the taxation of Georgia, because it's one of the most common questions when it comes to Georgia, because Georgia is one of the low burden tax country. It's one of the freest country from the economic perspective in the world. And despite, I know that when I say this to local Georgians, they're like, no, it's still too high, you know? But yeah, like when you travel a lot, you can compare it with other countries, and Georgia is really beautiful from low bureaucratic and taxation perspective. Especially coming from Europe, I'm like, oh my god. Really? Huh? Yeah. It really feels like I can breathe, you know, like, and I don't have to worry that, oh my god, I filled out the tax report wrong. Well, it's, you know, it has 2 full fields. I can do this. Yeah, and so I wanted really to bring more attention to, more awareness to Georgia, and it's working well. I was surprised because I didn't have yet time to promote the podcast that much. I just run it on YouTube, and you can also find it on Franklin Club's Facebook. But finally, I've been approached every week by 1-2 people who really want to relocate here, or who want to move their business here, or at least open a branch here. I'm like, wow, so this is really cool. Yeah, I'll see how it goes. Actually, I'm still seeking, because I have still 1 seat left for the shooting in 2 weeks, and so I might consider shooting with 1 more person. If you might think of someone interesting, feel free to connect me. I made interview with people like Michal Ptacnik, Gurekoeva. This taxation thing. Now I made an interview with Milan from Presta Ventures, who was attending some event here this week, last week. It's Monday, okay. And it's actually really interesting. And if you have a tip for a guest, so feel free to let me know. Let me check. Is it time? Okay. Okay, I will quickly go through tourism. So as I showed you the beautiful land, so you can come and visit us, and you can actually rent a copter if you want, or you can rent a boat and have a ride around. If you want to invest into real estate, so maybe we could cooperate here on the real estate market and start selling cottages in Liberland. You can rent a speedboat. You can rent these lake cabins, these cottages, and just stay there with the family. As I already mentioned, like, people over there in Balkan are just amazing. It's just so beautiful. I was staying there for just a few days, but everyone was so helpful, so nice, and it was just really nice to stay and just to be around. So yeah, this is how it looks like. I was not here. I was just in Apatin. I rented out some Airbnb. It was very nice. You can camp, whatever. And if you wanted a wedding in Liberland, we got you. Okay. And yeah, cruise Floating Man Festival. We have actually our Liberland sports teams also. So if you wanted to represent wait. If you wanted to represent Liberland, especially on the national level, in some sport, we'll be super happy to discuss with you the opportunity to give you the citizenship if you would be there as a Liberlandian. So this is one of the ways how you can get it. We are organizing several events related to the local culture. We respect it and so on. Horse riding, whatever, fishing, you know, all these things. And I didn't know, but when I was making a research, maybe my assistant found it. So we have Liberland Football Association, which is amazing. You know, like every country, as a right country, we have our own football team. How you can get to Liberland from Georgia? I think that the best way is just to go to Istanbul, Belgrade, and then to Apatin. To Apatin from Belgrade, it's in Serbia. You can get by taxi or by Flixbus. It's very easy. And yeah, I have this amazing call with. This is Michal Ptacnik, our Minister of Justice, who using a secured. Amazing. Ready when you are. I think this is what we wanted to see. Hey, happy to see you.
Hello. Nice to see you.
You're being on the project.
Wait a second.
Huh? You have as many seconds as you need. Okay, I will just. Meanwhile, I will show that you can, as I mentioned, so you can start a company in Liberland, and then you can use our market to market your services. But not many people is actually using it. This is why my colleague from Liberland Software Foundation, where I'm the CMO, so he started this Liberder, and they should be sending a newsletter today on so that the companies would register at Liberder, and it would be like one stop where would be the Liberland-based companies, and you could market your services with other like-minded people. You know, like mention which if you accept fiat or cryptocurrency or whatever else for your services, and especially interconnect with other like-minded people. We got you, Michael. We've been looking forward to see you. Oh, wait, not active today. Wait, 1 minute.
Can you hear me?
We can hear you. Yes.
Okay.
Very
good.
I want
to be here.
Yay! Because I have I was initiating today's presentation on demand for getting to know more information about founding a company in Liberland. So I wanted to ask you if you would please introduce us this from more like the legal perspective, I guess, and also like international law perspective. That would be great. Like how does it work in practice to cooperate with a Liberland-based company? And yeah, it's all yours. And then maybe if others will have some questions in relation to Liberland in general, so it's also yours. Thank you.
Thank you.
Enjoy.
So basically, anyone who is a resident or a citizen of Liberland can do business by virtue of that. We do not restrict the natural right, one would call it, to do business. That means doing business out of Liberland, obviously, out of the physical land, or perhaps its online space. If you do business out of any other place, then that place is probably a country or a part of a country. And those countries demand certain things, and we call that law. And Liberland, of course, only endorses lawful business practices, and that entails fulfilling those legal demands of any country in which you generate profit or revenue, as it were, in which you base your business, or with which you interact in any way that's relevant for that given law. We can think of registration requirements, we can think of rules about what types of business can have to have what properties and what managers. For example, restaurants have to be of certain size, the buildings, and there has to be cleanliness requirements, that sort of things. So we of course only endorse if you do business from a different country, which you probably are going to, let's face it, because you're not you're likely not going to have your entire business in Liberland as a Liberland citizen or a resident or a company, to which we will get soon. So the chief limit, and yeah, I'm a lawyer, so we're all about disclaimers. The chief limit is that those companies have to fulfill the local rules, the local laws, regulations, also tax laws. We're not a tax haven, we are a tax heaven, as our president says. That means we are committed to transparency. We are committed to anti-money laundering practices, know your customers practices, because we do not wish to provide a vehicle for people who have illicit gains to hide them from those from which they illegally obtain them, for example. That's not our purpose. We want to create a club you want to be a part of, right? And so we have to be very careful what we do and what we allow for businesses. So now let's go to the companies. The companies can be registered within our blockchain registry. It's anybody who is at least a resident can do that. Of course, citizens can do that as well. It's cheap, but you will see a big disclaimer. Again, we're about those disclaimers in the lawyer land, and that disclaimer can be quite off-putting for many. But that's the situation of Liberland as a non-recognized country. A company is a bit further removed from you as a business person. It's an entity. It has its own legal personality. Okay, so what is a company? It is an entity other than you through which you do business. That entity, that magical act of creation is usually done by state power in the current world. There are firms, let's say, or there are business names so that people can operate under the business name. Like, let's say that me and Samuela would have a general partnership. That's how it's usually called. And we would call it, I don't know, whatever, a company. It wouldn't be a company, it wouldn't be an entity, and we would be doing the business on our own responsibility and our own accounts. And if we lost money, then we would have to pay everything. Companies are different. They're a part of you, separate from you, that is. They're not a part of you, they are a part of you. And that's the magical act of creation I mentioned before. And you have to have a state power or some kind of other authority to facilitate that creation. And we are seeking to be that authority. We're seeking to establish ourselves as that authority. And about 100 companies already entrusted their creation into us. Does it work? Oh yes, they do business. They do business with other companies. And they do it compliant to local laws and regulations and tax laws. But they do it, and they exist in as much as other companies recognize them. Okay? So it's a matter of consensus, because companies, in fact, don't exist. Even American companies, or Georgian companies, or Czech companies, or wherever they're from, they are legal fictions. And fiction is the word where it all rests, right? So, by having a Liberland company, by doing business with a Liberland company, you actually, in a metaphysical sense, so to say, but in a very real sense, you add to its reality. Yeah, the more Liberland companies there are, and the more they work without issues, and the more they are accepted by others, the better their reach, the more real they are as actors, as entities, in international sphere. And then one day the disclaimer will be changed. Yeah. If this goes the way it goes, they're exploding. It's going really great. So if we continue this trend, if you help us, then one day soon we'll be able to guarantee more, and we'll be able to make them a bit more similar to what you're used to. The level of service would be a bit more similar than what you're used to.
Yeah, Michael. And
of course, that also. Yeah. Yes.
Yeah, I have a question. Like, would you be please more particular when it comes to like people who are using their Liberland business entity? So. What does it exactly mean? Because when I was talking, for example, with the Liberland based on profit, so the problem is rather that despite, like, for example, Liberland has 0% tax, but you still have to pay certain tax when you are actually charging the services from abroad, because you don't have the double taxation agreement. So on the accountant level, it was not the problem. if the company said, okay, it's fine, but the problem was that because of the non-existent double taxation agreement, since Liberland is not recognized in the particular country, so then they had to pay some extra tax, which was like 30% or something like that, and plus, of course, like okay, well, yeah, that's it. Cheers.
So basically, the issue is that the Liberland company will not be recognized as an entity by basically any other country or their regulatory authorities, because they don't have a recognition, and therefore they don't have a double taxation agreement, just like you said. And so you have to incorporate in that company, in that country, otherwise you're doing business illegally. That's not endorsed by Liberland. You shouldn't do that. And you also have to pay all the taxes you're due. And so you have to consult your own accountant to see what form of doing business is best for you. Now in England, for example, you can do business as a natural person. So that wouldn't be that much of an issue. In other countries, you can't. In many European countries, you can't. And so you actually have to incorporate as a natural person in a sort of a quasi-incorporation. It's not an incorporation per se, but it's like registration. You register yourself as a one-person business. And then you're doing it legally. And then you will be asked by your country to give them the profit from your Liberland company to tax it, basically. Even though it's your Liberland company, it's an entity, a part of you. But as I spoke of the magic, that magic doesn't work at present for countries which don't recognize Liberland, which is the great majority of them. So that is the limitation. And I have to be transparent about it. It's a very harsh limitation. One may see it that way. I'm not mincing words here. It is the beginning. You're joining us in the beginning. And so this is, we're very sorry that it's the case, but that's the legal landscape in which we have to operate to ensure that everything is smooth and that it works. So you wanted to know more technical details, so I'll be happy to provide them. Samuela, please direct me which technical details you'd like to hear. There are lots of them.
Yeah, maybe if you would please share your particular use case.
So as I understand right now, the only working case will be like creating a copy of a firm, so have a firm in the legal world, like any company, like a normal company, and have like a copy of this company in Liberland. So this is right now like the only possible way to operate without having any like issues with the taxes.
Yeah, I will repeat it. So like whether the only current way to make business legally and just right, to not to have any issues with the tax authorities, it is to set up a Liberland-based company, but then you still have to create a branch in the country where you reside. Right?
Something like that. I mean, like you could also create a branch in a recognized country which doesn't really do much in taxation, and there are such countries. You will run into reputational risks if that country is, say, Panama. But then it would be as smooth as possible from the regulatory point of view. Of course, Panama usually doesn't have double taxation treaties with most countries, so you fall into exactly the same problem as Liberland. A little bit less because at least the company will be recognized. Because the country of registration is recognized, unlike with Liberland. So yeah, it is, as I said, it is limited. And you said it correctly. You have to register in your country a branch or as a natural person. And most of those companies are one-man companies, so that would be more that. And then you have to pay your taxes, and you have to fulfill the regulatory limits which your country issues, which could be like for a restaurant, how big the dining hall had to be. You have to follow that, even though Liberland would not demand it of you. And the only way to remedy it would be to like do your business physically out of Liberland. So to go settle it and then do it there.
So everyone will settle in our metaverse and we're set. But would you share some particular use cases? Because I'm not aware of like what people are actually having the Liberland-based company, and maybe would you share some particular, like use cases of people who are actually having this type of company?
Yeah, I can't give you particulars because that's private, and of course the people are able to publicize it, but I'll give you anonymized data, right? I won't tell you who it is, just what it is. So there is a web shop with t-shirts. There is an award-winning computer security company, like white hat hackers, which mean people who help you make your network or private computer or something more secure. Like those people, and they are really award winning. So they're like repeatedly winning awards in computer security. It's really cool. Then there is a media company, at least one media company, which is PR firm. Then there are sellers of holistic medicine.
Okay.
Yeah, it's kind of but usually it is like that
I cannot see you now.
Hello?
Okay,
Hello?
yeah,
Hello?
I get you.
Usually it's that the companies are one-man shows. The media company is three-man show, and this is the biggest one we have. So it's usually one-man companies, usually lean startups. The security company may not be, the software security company may not be one-man show in the sense that they have many employees, but they are founded by a guy, by one founder.
Okay.
So yes, so these are examples. Think about some more. There is a company which helps you relocate into many countries. Yeah. Okay. Does this suffice?
It's interesting. Okay. Like, do you have any details like how they are resolving it on their level? Or
I don't.
Okay.
I don't.
That's fine.
But they should be resolving the way how I told you,
Okay.
and they have to, that's what they have to do.
Michael is
That's
lawyer,
very clear.
so. Of course, I wouldn't expect any other answer from you since you're a lawyer. That's fine. Okay. As I already mentioned, like, do you have any other question related to like the business scene in Liberland? And if not, do you have any other question in relation to Liberland Constitution, the law, this like more political stuff, because or the blockchain, because like these are sure.
Yeah, I've got a question about. Are you familiar with the concept of a network state?
Yeah.
We're the first one.
And how that relates to Liberland.
We're the first network state. Actually, we're kind of acknowledged by our president is in contact with Balaji, right? Who wrote the book. He wrote it actually after we were founded, and we are. I don't know how intense the relationship is, but we are recognized as a network state by him. So that's as much a recognition as a network state as you can get, and we are actually following the model of that book. And we had been following it before the book was written. So first form a community online, designate a purpose, like some kind of a idea, then find a territory, and then try to settle it. We're actually going faster on the territory front than what Balaji would recommend you. But we have a territory from the start, so we could do that, and we had to do that. And we are very happy to talk to other network states and make treaties with them, cooperation.
Okay. Do you have any? Okay, no more.
Since you say that the passport is recognized in two countries, for example, Colombia, it is possible to go there and actually make a bank account with a company, which will be like a company of Liberland, but also in Colombia.
Okay.
It's like legally possible.
Yeah, okay. Michael, since we have like recognition of passport in certain countries, can you like open the bank account of the Liberland-based company actually in the banks of these countries?
We're working on that in several countries, and I'm not the person who's working on that actually.
Yeah.
I just talked to that person, but I can ask him. But
yeah, or
currently
would you
it's
send
in
me
the
the
works.
contact, because I would get them in touch, because it's more like all these I usually get more details on bank account opening and stuff with Liberland documents randomly on Vitedlichka's posts and comments, which are a great source of information actually. So yeah.
So our Minister of Finance, Navid Sabarin, would be very happy to help you.
Oh, great.
So he is the guy. He's the one who works on that intensely with his advisor, J.Y. David.
Nice.
So that's and I'm. This is actually one of the few things that I'm not involved in, so I don't have a personal experience with that. But we're working on that. It's high on our agenda. And as far as I understand, Kraken and maybe some other crypto exchanges have accepted our passport as a KYC document, which is quite a big deal.
Yeah.
as you can imagine.
Yeah, I was mentioning. Okay, I will just get you in touch on this. It will be much better. Okay. Do you have any other related questions? No? No? Okay, Michael, well then, thank you so much for joining us today. I'm happy that you interrupted your other meeting to join us here. So thank you so much. I recorded everything, so you will be on YouTube. Thank you. Take care.
Bye-bye.
Cheers. Okay. Thank you so much for questions. It's great. He's around Liberland for longer than I am, so he has more details. And also, I'm only on this regional representation, so I cannot just keep up with everything that is happening even in the country, because it's just like so many things. It's really interesting. Like we have a representative group on Signal, and we are also doing regular calls. Once 2 weeks we have a call with other representatives. Once another weeks we have calls with citizens, which we started recently, and it's a great initiative because it feels much more connected to other people, and we're really listening to what other citizens also are curious about. We do some presentations on particular topics that are related to Liberland, so it's good. Like we really like cooperate, you know, like again, as the first slide, you know, like country for people, or a country made from people. Yeah, when you have a company, you can, as I mentioned, you can market your service, but I think not many people are actually using it. But you can also buy their governmental services. I just like this, you know, just part to the imagine. This is like the very good, like, optionality idea, so that you're not really paying for something you're not using. You don't pay for something that you wouldn't like to participate on or whatever. So now it's not so significant here, but for example in Europe, so you pay for half of the year from the year for the government, and of course you pay for a lot of things that you're not using. You pay for a lot of people which you wouldn't hire yourself, and it would be great to actually have a market like this on public services. This is actually when I was in Kiev in some 5 years ago, so I talked to a friend, and he said that like in Kiev they actually put part of their like budget on certain things where people were voting, actually, who were residents over there. So they were voting on what these money will go to, and I was like, oh, I really like this idea. Like actually, when I was relocating here, so Kiev was my number, like plan B. I was relocating during pandemic, so it was a bit hard. I didn't know if I will make it here, but yeah, I made it. And okay, so this was Liberland today. I will also share what we are currently working on slightly later. But Liberland tomorrow, despite it's also already today. Today in the morning I was playing. We have the Metaverse. I could maybe, yeah. Okay, whatever. But you can join our Metaverse. I think it's. I thought that it's not working yet, but today I found out it's working, and it is Liberverse. We have this weird. If you wanted to have some fun tomorrow, like if you don't have anything to do. So we have our metaverse. It's been the concept has been made by these Zaha architects, which is like a famous studio. At first they were supposed to be the judges, but then they decided to join the competition and they won it. Yeah. And we can actually use this to monetize our metaverse because, for example, you can rent out the conference room or the office and so on. So this is an opportunity to monetize it. Okay, what are our current aims in general? So we are working on improving our diaspora village on our, especially in ARC. In this Serbia, we aim to improve the recognition of our passports, of course, so we keep improving our diplomatic relations in general. The blockchain infrastructure, it's now in the testnet phase, from what I know. But, okay, well, it's still like in I think it was in making, but I just realized that I got at night an email so that it was launched, so maybe it's launched. I'm sorry for not being 100% up to date. And of course, we're welcoming new residents and citizens like really every day. So it's really great to see. Our current activities. So in a month, we will be opening our representative office in Washington, D.C. We just recently opened a representative office also in Mexico City. We work on the international diplomatic relations recently, especially in, again, like Dominican Republic, Mexico, El Salvador, US. Honestly, I'm not here very active on the political relations. I just talked to a few people from Dare to More Freedom. I was actually very shocked to see that in Georgia there are 2 libertarian parties. It's like, wow, like you don't have it in Europe. And we're also still working on our constitution. And you can check it out yourself at GitHub, as I already mentioned. There's an interesting discussion, at least like thought-provoking. So you can think like, oh, how would it work? You know, like if you could really have an impact on the constitution, how would it work to have a constitution that would really just secure the basic and the most important rights? So yeah, that's interesting, and we're working already on the preparation of the Floating Man Festival. It will take place in August. If you wanted to go, please let me know. As I mentioned, so our president, this is Vít, the president, so he's currently visiting this Montenegro place. I also made a special slide. I mentioned that I work on the business relations here in the country, and why is it important? So I realized, you know, like our aim, it's not like, okay, let's just get this recognition of the passports, but usually it's connected to the business. So for example, in Dominican Republic, I know that my colleagues are working on helping Dominican Republic to get some business from the US and improve their relations with other countries. So we are using our network, we are using our connections. Many of our representatives are representatives of countries in the real world, like of other countries, actually in some other countries. And so we have really, as I mentioned, a huge community of people from all around the world. And so we are trying to use these contacts into how can we help local infrastructure. So, for example, I became the representative who was like, oh, this makes sense to me because I believe that there's a connection between the freedom value that I really feel here in the country of Georgia and as I feel in Liberland, or it's our, you know, like base, sort of, our fundament. And this is why I was like, okay, I want to connect these two things. And then when I saw that the business scene is growing here, I was like, okay, how can I help it out? Well, I can do this podcast and so on. And we'll see how it goes. Maybe I will start my own, hopefully I will surely like start certain things of my own in the close future. But the aim, like from the beginning, was to help the country in a certain way. And so I'm using my own sort of like expertise, my own connections and knowledge to help Liberland, but at the same time, I'm still Liberland representative. How can people participate in our activities? So, of course, you can, as I mentioned, you can request a residency or the passport. You can visit our land. You can visit Liberland or ARC or other diaspora villages, but I'm not in touch, honestly, much on the other diaspora villages. But like ARC is really growing, we're improving it constantly. There are really people who are residing there. You can start your own company. And you can network with other people who are having the company that is based in Liberland, and you can market your services and at least cooperate with them because we were already addressing that there might be certain issues on the international level, but at least it's a great way. It's no matter what you decide to do, and if you decide to do anything, whatever, it's a great step towards a new community, towards a new market of people who are like-minded, who are pro freedom. So if you're pro freedom, these people are here, you know, I'm really happy to be part of it. You can contact the representative, that's me, if we need any help. So I was just recently opening the internship for a marketing position, but I have it closed, and in the end I had to take 3 people because there was a huge demand for it. I'm happy about it. And yeah, if you just know to do something and you would love to help improving anything in relation to us, so we are welcoming volunteers. It's one of the ways how you can get a residency or citizenship for your efforts in return, because like it's either it should be in the value of $5,000 sort of for the passport, or for $100 for the residency. So if someone is like helping us in certain way, so we're happy to give them merits in return so that they could purchase the residency or the passport. And you can come to our festivals or other events simply like currently nowadays, really, if you would be visiting ARC, so there's something happening every weekend. I can just share our friend, our Serbian friend who's over there. He was just yeah. Oh, it was not here. They were just having some party. Yeah, they had some concert, so we're like doing things, and it's people are coming there. It's real, yeah. And you can also join. Yeah, you can donate, or you can join our software activities. But this is like separate from Liberland itself. It's like a Liberland-based non-profit, which I'm also currently cooperating with. And so we are currently working, it's called Liberland Software Foundation, and we are working on the new email protocol and then some smart contract-based projects. What does it mean to me and why I decided to voluntarily actually join Liberland? So to me, I think the biggest thing is the community. Like, I really met so many interesting, very smart people who are related to the concept, who are just around, who are residents, but even who just are interested in the idea. Thanks to being representative, because I travel, so when I traveled somewhere, I organized some meetups and I met like-minded people in, like in Thailand or Vietnam, so it was great. I really love and I live the value of freedom, so I'm happy that I found a community where I can belong, where I can feel normal, and to actually get some very interesting connections also for my personal sort of like use. And what I really love, and you may say, oh, like I won't take it seriously, but the idea of Liberland shows the world that things could be done differently. It questions the status quo, it questions the norms, and this is what I really like, because I do it too. Yeah, and if you want to, you can stay in touch with me. You can find my YouTube channel where I post the Liberland in Georgia podcast, or there's also featured some interviews that were done with me from people from all around the world. Recently I was talking about decentralization on the idea of the society, and or you can follow me on Instagram. I share there some photos and whatever. I'm very active on LinkedIn, where I communicate mainly remote work, but from the perspective of how it changed the way we can live. And yeah, or you can just text me, follow my blog, where I sometimes write something libertarian connected and so on. And that's it. Thank you.